I am not confident that I can build a car and win that show.
Because you don't know the judges.
I don't know that they're going to pick that car. And I don't have any interest in building a very, very traditional car.
For over a decade, Chip Foose dominated reality television with Overhaulin, bringing joy to car owners and millions of viewers worldwide. But behind the cameras, behind the award-winning designs and television success, Chip's life has been marked by devastating tragedies that most people never knew about. What were some of the events that nearly ruined his reputation? Join us as we pull back the curtain on the heartbreaking tragedy of Chip Foose, the sister who changed everything. Chip was the second oldest child and the only boy among 4 kids, and he watched as his youngest sister Amy entered the world. But Amy wasn't like other children. She had Hutchinson-Gilford progeria syndrome, a rare genetic disease that affects only 1 in 4 million live births worldwide. Progeria is a condition so cruel that children with it age at a horrifying rate. While other kids were growing up normally, Amy's body was aging faster than anyone could have imagined. The disease causes premature and rapid aging symptoms. Children with progeria typically develop normally for the first year, then the nightmare begins. Their hair falls out, their skin becomes wrinkled like that of elderly people. Their bodies become fragile and thin, and they develop heart disease, atherosclerosis, and all the medical complications of someone 70 or 80 years old, except they're just children. Most children with progeria die around age 14 or 15, usually from cardiovascular complications. The average lifespan is just 14.6 years. For the Foose family, watching Amy grow up meant watching her deteriorate. While Chip was learning about cars from his father, Sam, at the family auto body shop in Santa Barbara, Amy was fighting a battle she could never win. As the second oldest of 4 kids, Chip had responsibilities beyond his years. He wasn't just a big brother, he was a witness to one of nature's cruelest diseases. December 19, 1985, was the day Amy Foose died. She was just 16 years old, having survived slightly longer than the average progeria patient. For Chip, who was 22 at the time, losing his youngest sister was devastating beyond words. He'd grown up watching her fight every single day just to exist, watching her body betray her in ways no child should ever experience. But here's what makes Chip's response to this tragedy remarkable. Instead of being crushed by grief or becoming bitter or angry at the unfairness of it all, Chip made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He adopted Amy's can-do, optimistic attitude in her honor. In 2025, Chip serves as the vice chairman of the Progeria Research Foundation's California chapter, turning personal tragedy into a mission to help other families facing the same nightmare. The foundation gives out the Amy Award every few years in honor of Amy Foose, ensuring that her name and her spirit live on through research that might one day cure the disease that took her life. Years later, when Boyd Coddington's Hot Rods Company went bankrupt in 1998, Chip faced an impossible choice. He could continue buying parts for clients' cars with his own money, trying to keep a sinking ship afloat, or he could strike out on his own. On the day he decided to leave Boyd and start Foose Design, he discovered that his wife, Lynn, was pregnant with their first child, that his mortgage payment was due, and that he had just $700 in the bank. Most people would have panicked. Most people would have stayed in the perceived safety of working for someone else. But Chip drew from the example set by his late sister and refused to lose hope. 1 week later, mobile audio company Precision Power called with a $10,000 advance, and Foose Design was in business. Amy's legacy of optimism and perseverance had carried him through his darkest professional moment. Sources revealed that Chip was devastated by Amy's loss, but that devastation transformed into something powerful. Every time he faced adversity, every time circumstances seemed impossible, He channeled the courage his sister displayed every single day of her short life. She never gave up fighting progeria, even though she knew she couldn't win. That fighting spirit became Chip's compass through every tragedy that would follow. But Amy's death wasn't the only relationship that would scar Chip forever. His partnership with the legendary Boyd Coddington was about to implode in the most brutal way possible. The Boyd Coddington betrayal. In November 1990, 27-year-old Chip Foose began working part-time for Boyd Coddington, one of the most famous hot rod builders in America. By 1993, Chip resigned from Sterenberger Design to work for Boyd full-time, eventually becoming president of Hot Rods by Boyd. This wasn't just a job. This was a mentorship and a father-son type relationship in the automotive world. Chip, who is widely acclaimed for fostering what became known as the Boyd look, was responsible for many internationally known vehicles: Roadstar, Sportstar, Boydster 1 and 2, Boyd Air. The iconic designs that made Boyd Coddington famous? Most of them came from Chip Foose's pen. Cars that won awards, graced magazine covers, and cemented Boyd's reputation as a legend were actually Chip's creative vision. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Boyd Coddington had gone public with his company, and when the Asian market crashed, he was caught with his pants down. The company that Chip had helped build and poured his talent and creativity into was collapsing. Boyd filed for bankruptcy, stiffing small mom-and-pop hot rod shops to the sum of over $5 million. Unfortunately, Chip's 8-year relationship with Boyd had to end, and the split was anything but amicable. Chip didn't just leave. He took many of Boyd's talented employees with him. Builders like Mike and Charlie left Coddington's business shortly after Foose established his own shop. To Boyd, this was personal betrayal of the highest order. In a 2006 interview, Chip stated something that reveals the depth of the rift. Boyd has chosen not to have any relations with him since he stopped working at his shop. A man Chip had worked alongside for 8 years, someone he'd helped make famous, someone whose company he'd served as president, refused to even speak to him after he left. The bitterness was mutual. Boyd appeared on his reality show American Hot Rod and made it clear to anyone watching that Chip Foose was the enemy. When Boyd's painter and fabricator Charlie Hutton decided to leave and work on a project for Chip, Boyd's reaction was captured on camera, and it was ugly. He refused to shake Charlie's hand and wouldn't even acknowledge their years of friendship. The cameras captured Boyd's profanity-laced tirade as Charlie walked out the door. But here's the tragic irony. The designs that made Boyd Coddington famous were largely Chip's work. The Boyd look that people praised? That was the Chip's aesthetic. Cars like the iconic Cadzilla that people still talk about today? Chip's fingerprints were all over it. Yet Boyd took the credit, built a television show around his name, and when Chip finally struck out on his own with the talent he'd always possessed, Boyd treated it as theft. Industry insiders recognized the truth. One designer stated that Chip has more talent in his pinky finger than Boyd has in his whole body. Another noted that Boyd can't do work, can't design, and certainly can't run a business. But Boyd had the name recognition, the television platform, and the ability to control the narrative. Yet he used it all to paint Chip as the villain who betrayed him. The feud played out in the hot rod community for years. Forums filled with debates about who was right, who was wrong, who deserved credit for which designs. People took sides. Some believed Boyd's version of events, that Chip was an ungrateful employee who poached his workers and undermined his business. Others saw the truth, that Chip was a talented designer, finally stepping out from under someone else's shadow. What made the situation even more painful for Chip was that he genuinely respected Boyd. In later interviews, Chip spoke about his time at Hot Rods by Boyd with fondness, describing how he reveled in working with Coddington's talented and fastidious crew. He wasn't bitter about the experience itself, only about how it ended and the relationship it destroyed. On February 27, 2008, Boyd Coddington died at age 63. The man who'd become Chip's greatest adversary was gone, and with him, any chance of reconciliation. They never made peace. T. The friendship and mentorship that had meant so much to Chip in the early 90s died long before Boyd did, killed by bankruptcy and perceived betrayal. For Chip, losing Boyd's friendship was like losing another family member, not through death or disease like Amy, but through bitterness and professional conflict. And unlike Amy's death, which Chip could channel into positive action through the Progeria Research Foundation, the Boyd situation left scars that never fully healed. But just as Chip's career was reaching its peak with Overhaulin, another nightmare was about to destroy everything he'd earned. The unique performance nightmare. In 2005, Chip Foose was riding high. Overhaulin was a massive success. He'd been inducted into the Hot Rod Hall of Fame as the youngest person ever at age 31, and he was fielding partnership offers from major companies. One of those offers came from Unique Performance in Dallas, Texas, and accepting it would become one of the biggest mistakes of Chip's life. At the 2005 Specialty Equipment Market Association show, Chip displayed a 1969 Foose-designed Camaro convertible that would be produced in a limited 300-car run by Unique Performance. Press releases announced that Unique would also handle marketing for Chip's other custom car lines. The Hemisphere, also known as the Foose Coupe, the Foose Mustang Stallion, the Foose Challenger, and even a Foose motorcycle. It seemed like a perfect partnership. Chip would design, Unique would manufacture and market, and both would profit. The first Foose Coupe supercar sold at auction for $340,000, purchased by Atlanta vintage car dealer Roger Burgess. They were high-end custom vehicles with price tags ranging from $100,000 to $250,000. Customers put down substantial deposits, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, trusting that Unique Performance would deliver their dream cars. But Unique Performance had a secret. Owner Doug Hasty was running what investigators would later call a massive fraud operation. Cars weren't being delivered, deposits were disappearing, and the vehicles that did get built had a dark secret hidden under their hoods. On November 1, 2007, the police raided the Unique Performance compound in Farmers Branch, Texas. What they found shocked everyone: 61 vintage vehicles, mostly Mustangs, in various states of construction. But the real bombshell came when investigators looked closer at the VIN plates. They were fake. Beneath them were areas that had been scratched viciously, evidence that original VINs had been removed. Unique Performance was engaged in title washing, taking stolen or salvaged vehicles and giving them new identities. Customer complaints had triggered the investigation. People who'd paid upwards of $200,000 were waiting years for vehicles that never arrived. And when police started connecting the dots, they discovered a fraud operation of staggering proportions. The local prosecutor's office filed 25 felony charges against the company, mostly involving fraud and title washing. For Chip Foose, this was catastrophic. His name was on these cars. His designs, his reputation, and his brand were all tied to a company that had just been exposed as criminal. And here's the crushing part. Chip had no idea it was happening. He'd created concept designs for prototype vehicles to be built under his license. He was supposed to collect royalties when cars were sold or delivered. But when cars weren't being delivered, angry customers went after Chip instead of the actual criminals. Chip and his legal team worked for more than 8 months trying to resolve the issues with Unique Performance. In November 2007, Foose Design announced it was terminating all licensing and business activities with Unique Performance, effective immediately. The press release made clear that Unique no longer had any rights to Foose's intellectual property, the Foose name, image, likeness, logos, or designs. Chip was cutting all ties and considering legal action against the company, but the damage was done. Carroll Shelby had also severed his licensing agreement with Unique that same year, having partnered with them to produce continuation Shelby GT350SRS and GT500E Eleanors. When a legend like Carroll Shelby walks away, you know things are bad. Eventually, Unique Performance filed for bankruptcy with no assets and millions owed to creditors and customers. Customers who dreamed of owning a Foose-designed vehicle lost their deposits. Small businesses that supplied parts lost their money. And Chip Foose lost nearly everything he'd earned from his television success. The nightmare dragged on for years as investigators tried to determine if criminal charges would be brought against owner Doug Hasty and other employees. The emotional toll was immense. The idea that people associated his name with fraud and that customers felt betrayed by vehicles carrying the Foose brand caused him great stress. But Chip had survived family tragedy and professional disasters before. What he couldn't survive was what happened next in his personal life: the Jesse Combs tragedy. Chip Foose has worked with hundreds of people over his career, but few made the impact that Jesse Combs did. When she appeared on Overhaulin as a co-host from 2004 to 2008, she was just a WyoTech student with a passion for cars and a smile that could light up any shop. Chip took a picture with her during that first Season 1 build, a young woman at the beginning of what should have been a long and legendary career. Jessie wasn't just another pretty face on a reality show. She was the real deal. She attacked all her projects with a smile and 110% passion, as Chip would later recall. She went on to co-host Mythbusters and became known as the fastest woman on four wheels, relentlessly pursuing land speed records with the same determination that made her stand out on Overhaulin. But Jessie had a dream that would ultimately kill her. She wanted to be the fastest woman in the world, to break land speed records, and to push the absolute limits of what was possible. And on August 27, 2019, while attempting to break her own land speed record in Oregon's Alvord Desert, Jesse Combs died in a horrific crash at age 36. The news devastated the automotive community. Chip Foose took to Instagram to post a heartfelt tribute to his lost friend, and the pain in his words was palpable. He shared that first picture from when he met her as a WyoTech student, remembering the better times before tragedy struck. Jesse's boyfriend, Terry Madden, revealed that she passed away in a horrific accident despite all efforts to save her life. The jet-powered vehicle she was driving crashed at speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour. She was doing what she loved, chasing a dream, and refusing to settle for anything less than being the best. In that way, she and Chip shared something profound: a refusal to give up, a determination to push forward no matter the obstacles. While Jess's death was heartbreaking, but nothing could have prepared Chip for the personal devastation that would nearly destroy him in 2023. The divorce that destroyed everything. Chip Foose met Lynn during his time at Art Center College of Design. She was the woman who insisted he complete his degree before they'd marry. She wanted to marry her equal, so Chip knew he had to figure out how to get back to Art Center, and he revealed that it was the best thing that he ever did in his life. After his 1990 graduation, they would and built their life together in Southern California. Lynn's background as a lawyer became invaluable to Chip's career, especially when she played a pivotal role in establishing Foose Design after Boyd Coddington's bankruptcy. When the Unique Performance scandal threatened to destroy him, Lynn's legal expertise helped navigate the nightmare. She was his partner in every sense: wife, business advisor, legal counsel, and mother to their two children, Brock and Katie. For over 3 decades, they built something remarkable together. Chip became a television star, a Hot Rod Hall of Fame inductee, and a designer respected worldwide. Lynn managed the business side, handled legal matters, and raised their family. To the outside world, they appeared to have it all: success, wealth, a beautiful family, and a love story that had lasted since Chip's college days. Court records indicate that civil proceedings began in April 2022 between Lynn Foose and Chip Foose. After 32 years of marriage, after building Foose Design together, after surviving financial disasters and professional conflicts, their relationship was ending, and it wasn't going to be amicable. In a devastating 2024 interview, Chip confirmed their divorce was finalized in December 2023. But it wasn't the end of the marriage that shocked people. It was what Chip revealed about the settlement. He stated he had given her everything. Industry sources reported that Chip's divorce and the sale of his shop led to a notable decrease in his overall wealth compared to previous years. As of 2025, Chip Foose's estimated net worth is between $12 million and $14 million, down significantly from earlier estimates of $18.5 million. That difference, potentially $4 to $6 million, represents what he lost in the divorce settlement and business dissolution. But the financial hit was just the beginning. After the split, Chip retained his personal car collection and tools, but no longer had a workshop. For Chip, this wasn't just about losing money or property. It was about losing the infrastructure of his life's work. Would Chip ever reach the level of success he attained in his prime? What really led to the end of the marriage? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.